talk about takedowns. No, we're gonna talk about pulling guard. That's the only reason you should be standing in jiu-jitsu. It's because you're about to pull guard. So for pulling guard in the gi, again, from a competition perspective, understand that you must have grips. I can't, for most tournaments, any tournament that follows IBJJF rules or some derivation of that. Side note, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation is not a federation. They are not a governing body. They are conning you about that. They are a private, for-profit tournament company. Don't get it twisted. But their rules are used by a lot of people in the community. So if I just come out and go, I'm gonna get forced to stand back up. I'm not allowed to sit down. In other formats, you are absolutely just fine to just come out and don't touch the other person and just sit down. So know the rules before you go in. But assuming that I have to make contact, catching a sleeve is usually gonna be quite difficult. There's gonna be a lot of hand fighting, but catching a collar will be a lot easier. Which collar is gonna be, let's just turn this a little bit. Most practitioners will not allow you to get a cross collar grip. The reason for that is I can rotate Rory in a direction that's extremely unfavorable to him. If they have any kind of judo background, they're gonna be defending that collar with a lot more diligence. So what we usually recommend here is making like you're trying to get that collar and just grab the other collar. So I wanted the cross collar grip, my right hand to Rory's right shoulder, that collar. Instead I used my right hand to grab this collar. Again, I won't just be able to do it. I should be trying to grab his hands. I should be trying to get grips. And as that exchange is occurring, I'm just gonna get a quick grip on that. Usually when this happens, your partner will match you. And that allows me to get, like, he'll grab my sleeve, I'll grab his sleeve. This is a pretty common thing to have happen. This isn't optimal. Like if I were trying to fight for takedowns, this wouldn't necessarily be the way I'm going about it. But it's a relatively easy position to get to that allows me to quickly go to a guard pull. And there'll be something we need to do before we pull the guard, like go to the guard pull, but let's just quickly show what this is going to look like. Is me pulling to a guard, which immediately leads to a sweep attempt. One thing we don't really recommend, as much as this is probably going to be titled guard pulling, is we don't pull guard, we pull sweeps. We just went through the tripod sweep in the series. This is how you would apply the tripod sweep from a standing position. So I get my grip. As we get to mutual grips, I'm immediately looking to pull guard. One thing we want to do, and I just mentioned we want to do this beforehand, is I want to perform a Kuzushi. A Kuzushi is just going to involve me using my weight, not my arm. So I'm not trying to like pull Rory with my arm. What I'm doing is bringing my weight backwards and hanging off him. You see how Rory stumbled forward. So I take my weight, I take a step back, I take another step back, and I just squat, and I'm just hanging off him. I'm maintaining isometric tension in my arm. Obviously, I can add more pulling motion with my arm, but that's not where the power is coming from. It's me dropping my weight, and then if I add this pulling motion, that's what I'm looking for.
And what that does is creates a little bit of vulnerability in me, so that I'm going to have a hard time countering you.
Exactly.
So,
that's the purpose of this. I don't need to off-balance Rory to pull guard. I could just sit down if I really wanted to, and that's not even wrong. There are ways to do that. But if I want to definitely put my foot on Rory's hip, and we are both like in base, I'm temporarily fucking up my base. And if Rory wanted to, let's say, take this arm and just redirect my leg, oh shit, I just went for a guard pull and got taken down and my guard passed in one motion. So I want to make sure that I create some vulnerability. I step back, I squat, and I pull. If this rotates this leg forward, it doesn't matter. All I want to do is make sure that Rory is not set to defend. Pull. And then that helps me load him up as well. The timing of pulling guard while Rory is slightly off balance allows me to bring his center of gravity onto my foot, which allows me to then hit this tripod sweep a lot easier, or hit this kind of knockdown to this side.
that's what's so great about the gi, is that from that distance, you're able to have such strong control. Yeah, let's go back that way again. That when Rob's got access to the top of this lever of my spine, the best that he can, and then puts a frame here at my hips to stop me from being able to come forward, he can break my posture so significantly. And so by pulling guard with the break in my alignment, he's able to start setting up immediate submission threats like triangles, but he's also able to more successfully be able to tie straight into sweeps. So here you can see when Rob throws his leg to my hip, he blocks me, and I just get pulled forward with his center of gravity as he drops. So it doesn't even take that much energy for Rob. He's using gravity, and he's dropping down in a strong position. I get completely screwed up here, and this is one of the few times that it's okay for you to extend this leg out like this with that knee elbow connection separating, because Rob's breaking my alignment and he's got a strong frame that blocks me from being able to move around. If he put this across the center line to that far hip for some dumb reason, then even from here, it's not going to hold me back.
Yeah. And I don't have to start with the leg straight. I can pull into a very bent leg and then launch him in the air, which is just another way of doing it. It really does depend on what I'm trying to achieve. You know, if I were trying to achieve more of a, I believe it's called Yoko Tomonagi style, anything like, I might want to load him up here and then straighten my leg out. If I'm trying to tripod you, I might want to bring you forward a little bit more and then move into the tripod. Like how long my legs are, what your balance is like at the time, will determine how I use this leg. It's not always going to be straight, it's not always going to be bent, but it's fine to have it straight, especially for the purpose of breaking somebody's posture.
Absolutely. So let's just do that one from front here the best we kind of can. Obviously, we block a little bit. So you can see how the longer Rob waits once he has lowered himself to the ground, the more time that gives me to start figuring out this problem that's in front of me, start taking away that control and starting to get myself back into better alignment. Rob is going down, and with that disruption of my alignment, as I bend forward with him dropping, as Rob hits the ground, he's going straight into that tripod sweep. And so you're seeing how we can connect these techniques together, that even though we're only going over a limited set of moves in each of these different modules through this instructional, you can see how this stuff starts to tie together. And then if we went even a step further, Rob's able to pull guard right into that tripod sweep, and because he does a technical stand-up that he recedes back, he's able to get right immediately into like ankle control and start immediately setting up something like the leg drag. And so even though you have just limited options of the moves that you would be doing, you're able to start tying this stuff together, and you start to have an understanding where you're like, okay, I have a game plan. My goal here is to pull guard, knock my opponent down with a tripod sweep, and immediately go into a guard pass. And so hopefully you're not completely blanking out when you're in whether you're rolling at first or especially when you're looking at competing.
Yeah, and it's really important that you have a plan when you're going in to compete. It doesn't have to be a super precise, I'm going to do this exact movement followed by this exact movement, but you at least have to have something going out. And as we've talked about elsewhere, and probably before this, but going out and trying to hit takedowns as a 6-month white belt, ooh, man, really difficult. Going out and hitting a guard pull as a 6-month white belt, really easy. And going out and hitting a guard pull directly to a sweep is also quite easy. So we highly recommend it as a strategy.